Alrighty, welcome to Romera Records podcast. Today we have on.
IMAKEMADBEATS.
How's it going, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. It's another one of them days where you're thankful and you're ready to tackle things, one step at a time. So
Awesome.
yeah.
So I found you basically just from social media and everything. There's a lot of people that I know who you are, and people have asked me like, "Hey, don't you know I might make Mad Beats?" I'm like, "No, I do not know him," and I say that out of respect because.
Thank you.
Yeah.
People be saying they know.
Yeah.
Me. I don't know. That's real.
Yeah, I figured that. And I think that that's a big deal for people who are in, especially at the music industry or entertainment industry. Yeah, I think it's important to not claim that you know somebody when you really don't, because I really don't know you. Like, I know of you, I know what you do, but I don't really know you. So this is me getting to know you.
I think, I get a lot of that, right? I get a lot of people who are coming to me and they're like, "Yeah, do you know Jeff?" I'm like, "Who's Jeff?" "I don't know. Jeff said he knows you." I'm like, "I don't know Jeff. I don't know him." You know what I'm saying? And I feel like social media has like maybe blurred the lines on what it is to actually say someone is your friend and that you actually know someone.
Yeah.
And so I try to have a little bit of grace for that. But for people who actually take the time to realize, like, we're friends on social media, but I don't really know this guy. Hey, thank you. Nah, because I like to explain myself,
Yeah.
right? I like if you're gonna meet me and say you know me, like the things you discuss about me or things I actually said to you,
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't get that grace all the time.
And especially in Memphis, where it's like a big, small city,
Yep.
where like a lot of people know each other. And as I said, I know a lot of people who actually know you very well, but I don't know you very well. So in that case, like, there might be people I know that have said good things about you or bad things about you, but I don't let that interfere with what I could know about you. Like, I might end up hating you. I might end up being best friends with you. I don't know. So I'm just going to come at it with an open mindset of, let's just find out who this guy is and let him explain his story instead of hearing from other people.
That's it, man. That's for me. I find that like that's the way I move. And I appreciate people who move like that because I don't know. I feel like the alternative to moving like that is fear-based moving, and I don't mind finding out for myself because I have nothing to fear.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's social politics 101. I'm gonna fall back. Yeah.
It's an important lesson for a lot of people to learn. I think I heard somebody say that social media isn't very social anymore.
Yeah.
And it's because a lot of people are just like posting stuff like every single day.
Yeah.
And so I think back in like the MySpace days, like, you posted something like maybe once a week or every few days, and then people kept that conversation going. Like, you kept talking.
Yeah.
But nowadays, content's just rolling through. It's like, if you missed a day, so what? Like, you can just talk about the next thing that somebody posted. But that's life. We're adjusting.
That's it. We're adapting every day.
Yeah. So I guess kind of get into who you are, where you from. I'm assuming you're from Memphis.
Yeah. I'm from Memphis.
I guess how you grew up, where you grew up, all that kind of stuff, and eventually we'll just get into how you got into music or entertainment, everything.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm from Memphis. Originally from Orange Mound. You know, I'm a music producer. I'm also CEO and founder of an organization called Unapologetic. We call ourselves a storytelling label. Yeah, I went to White Station. I went to Sherwood Elementary, then to White Station High School. I left here. I ended up in New York, where I got a chance to intern and eventually become an engineer at Quad Studios, which is right in Times Square in Manhattan. And I consider that the start of my professional career. Man, I've been making beats and recording folks and mixing things, probably since I was 14 or so, 14 or 15. But once I got to New York and you get to really see the belly of the beast. You get to really see how the sausage is made, and more importantly, like the patterns and the kinds of characteristics necessary to actively engage in this kind of field and succeed. You know, I think most of what I learned was character things, you know. And of course, I learned a lot, you know, watching other engineers and other producers, and eventually becoming those, and then working with a variety of artists. You learn a lot. You learn a lot because you're just surrounded by, you know, some of the best in the world to ever do something. Like, no matter where they're from, at some point they're in New York, you know. And so you just get to watch the best on the planet do things. And if you're wise, you know that smart people learn from their own mistakes, wise people learn from the mistakes of others. And so it pays to be observant and to know when to shut the fuck up and watch and learn.
Yeah.
And that's what I learned in New York. You know, I was a terrible communicator when I got there. And I learned how to communicate by force. I learned how to be assertive, how to express my ideas. I also learned when to fall back and when to find a different way to be a factor, right? So the scoring person is not always, I mean, that's not the only way to be a factor in a game.
Yeah.
You know, there's various functions to help that person score and to, you know, to play a role in a championship. And so I learned how to play multiple roles. When I came back here, you know, after you're in the machine for so long, when you come back here, you see all the potential, you see all the talent, you see how fertile the soil is, but then you also see the potholes, right? You see the missing chunks in the street. And it's like, yeah, okay, well, and regarding this, we're still in like 1973, you know, and regarding this, you know, we're actually ahead of the time, you know, and so it's just, you want to make sure that you don't have as many potholes in the streets. And so I began to try to fill up some potholes, you know, try to use the things that I learned to build things that I thought could solve problems for artists and creatives, and then eventually people. You know, it started with artists and creatives, but, you know, some of the things that we're involved with now are just community-based. It has nothing to do with whether you draw or sing. It's just, you know, I always think about 15 or 16-year-old me walking up down Barron or Park in Orange Mound, and what I did and didn't feel like I had access to, you know, and how can what I'm doing now change that for people?
Did you feel like when you went, or let's go back, did you feel like when you came back from New York that was a mindset that you already had in place of like, man, like look at all these things that I learned and how I can help? Because you like, did you already know the gaps and the potholes that were already in Memphis on your way back, or
No.
you just saw it when you came back?
Absolutely. I didn't, you know, I didn't know. You know, I think I always try to give myself grace for this, you know, that I left Memphis before I had a chance to be an adult here. I literally graduated from high school. Maybe 3 weeks later, I was gone. You know what I'm saying? Like, I never, you know, in that part of my life, I never had an adult experience here. So I never really surveyed the land like that, you know, to know what was and what wasn't here.
Yeah.
So I had no idea. It was just the juxtaposition of New York and all of its mechanics, and then coming here and somebody is telling people you need to sell CDs on Bill Street. And I was like, you know, there are new approaches to this now.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know? So, yeah.
it's a really cool thing leaving a place and then going back. If you haven't done it, for everybody listening, if you have not done it, I would highly suggest it.
Yeah.
You listen to your experience and then my experience. I'm from Alabama, and I joined the military, Air Force in 2015, and I lived in Texas for like 6 months. I lived in North Dakota for about 3 years, and then
Wow.
I moved back to Alabama, and then I ended up doing training in Milwaukee for like 3 months, and then I ended up moving to Memphis.
Wow.
And
That's
just
interesting.
like living in all
Yeah.
these different places, it like definitely opened my eyes to like how certain areas live and how certain areas move. Like in New York, New York City specifically, everybody's fast paced.
Yep.
Like they don't have time for you to be BSing or doing anything stupid that's like wasting their time, because everybody finds their time more precious up there because they're just go go go.
Yeah.
And I think down here it's more or less like people feel like they have more time on their hands. They feel like they can not really waste time, but like they have more time to do stuff. And I don't know, it's hard for me to adjust to that, even though I'm from the South, like grew up
Yeah.
in Alabama my entire life and then moved to North Dakota when I was like 20 something. I still I knew that's when I realized I was different than a lot of other people in the South, because like I'm more of a fast paced, like I like to do stuff, I like to move on to the next thing than a lot of other people. And I mean, there's definitely tons of people like that in the South. I'm not saying I'm like different, but like you can separate yourself from the people who you know aren't gonna take that leap to do something great, because those kind of people are more comfortable being more stagnant. And it makes me uncomfortable when I'm not doing something. Like if I'm not progressing, I'm like, what are you doing? Like get something done. So
Absolutely.
I think it's great to have an experience like what you did, to definitely come back to Memphis and just see the change in not only in the city but like in yourself. Like you
Yeah.
saw that difference.
Yeah. No, that's a very good, perspective and recall on those dynamics. Like I, there's several ways that I think I grew up feeling weird or different, but but that was definitely one of them. Right? Was that like, I have, I was telling my wife a couple of weeks ago. I was like, you know, no one has ever sat me down and given me a motivational speech. You know, and her, I can't, obviously, I'm not sure. I know when I told her, I think she already, but somebody I had told that to, was response was like, oh, man, you should have had somebody there to give you this, to speak life into you and all that stuff. And I was like, oh no, I think you're missing the point of what I'm saying. Like no one ever looked at me and thought,
You needed
I
it.
need to motivate this guy. You know what I'm saying? No, if anything, it was the opposite.
Yeah.
Or if anything, they had a concern for my obsession with progression.
Yeah.
I've never had anybody try to get me to do more. People are always trying to get me to do less.
Yeah.
And that's the very first time I felt like an alien here. It was not understanding why people have a problem with me and my drive, me and my curiosity to explore things at a heightened level, you know. And that's it. It's just that, I get it. If I wasn't me and maybe I didn't have these kinds of views on things, I guess, you know, someone being this attached to things could be concerning, you know. But that was my experience. And so, I have never had the experience of someone asking me to do more. And so sometimes when I'm here and I'm around people, like that's, and I'm around people who do require or who do better in these kinds of scenarios where they have consistent motivations and you know, and coaching involved, you know, and you know, I'm a mentor of sorts, so you know, I've been that, you know, for other people, but it is foreign to me natively.
Yeah.
You know, like I get a lot of calls where people want me to go on panels and discuss like, you know, how, you know, why mentorship is important / necessary. And I'm always conflicted because I really want to tell them like, well, you need to talk to the people I mentored. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like I never had one,
Yeah.
you know, and I can't be an example of like, oh, well, mentorship gets you where I am. Well, actually, lack of mentorship is how I got here. You know what I'm saying? And no, it is real. Like it was feeling like nobody is gonna help me.
Yeah.
I got to do this on my own.
Yeah.
In a vicious and ferocious way, and so that's why a lot of times when people don't understand that vicious or ferocious approach to my ambitions, you just gotta have grace for them.
Yeah.
You know, you just gotta have grace for them. I understand why you don't understand, but I'm not this way for nothing.
Yeah.
And most importantly, when I am this way, it works.
Yeah. Is your wife like that?
No.
So my wife isn't either. Like my wife is extremely smart, like one of the smartest people I know, but like she's an overanalyzer. She will think about something for a year before she makes one move. I will make moves all year and then I'll think about it. I'm like, what did I just do? So, yeah, it's weird having your significant other be completely opposite because it's almost like you question, like, why are you like this? And so it's actually been like an experiment for me to understand, because like, so she was a personal trainer at Lifetime Fitness in Collierville, and COVID happens, you know, they can't go to work. And I told her, I was like, just quit, like just start your own business. So that's what she did. And it's been really hard for her to just like understand the concept of like, this is what I do now. I run my own business. I have my own clients, all that kind of stuff. And but she's not a self-motivator. Like she needs somebody to like basically give her permission to do stuff. And I'm like, that's crazy. Like I don't comprehend that, because I would just be the type of person that would just do stuff. I'm a more ask for forgiveness than permission type of person. But she's the opposite. So it's just like, it's crazy watching her work.
Yeah, I've witnessed, you know, I've been around enough people in my life now to know that there are pros and cons to everything. And that's where balance is important, you know, and that's why, you know, when it comes to choosing a significant other, you know, there's some things you got to have alike, then there's some things that you got to have different that provide balance, you know. And my wife definitely does that for me, because I don't know where I would be, you know. But, you know, no, it is, you know, and that's the funny thing about it. I find that though, it is, while we can position these things in like as a dichotomy, or like a, you know, a juxtaposition of like, okay, what is it like to move, like how you described your wife, and then what is it like to just move, and you know what I'm saying, and to be a little bit more immediately active or engaging, you know. So those sound like people over here, people over here. But I'll add some nuance to that. Like, it has been my experience that this is the rarer position, right? This is not a 50-50 split here, you know. And that I've also found that people will tend to want to convince you to be like them simply because more people are like them.
Yeah.
Right? So they don't even have to understand like what they're trying to convince you of.
Yeah.
They just feel confident in knowing, well, me and most people do X, Y, and Z.
Yes.
You should too.
Yeah. It makes them feel more comfortable.
Yeah, like the idea that there's 50 people behind them agreeing with them versus maybe 2 people behind me agreeing with me.
Yeah.
You know, that's enough evidence to feel like okay, I need to convince this guy. He's clearly doing something wrong. Most people are doing this.
Yeah.
You know. And in my opinion, you know, I think that there are a lot of people that were over here and got convinced. You know. And then I'm saying this because I've lived a life of year after year after year of people trying to convince me to be over here. Right? Now, I will say though, year after year after year, there's a smaller and smaller group of people trying to convince me, because once you start winning, well then all of a sudden you're not obsessed. Now you're dedicated.
Yeah.
You know, right? Now all the negative words switch to positive words, you know, and less people are willing to criticize your approach just because it's different. And more people are willing to say, okay, this guy's approach is different. I don't know how he's doing it, but he's winning.
Yeah.
So you got to respect that. But there will always be some person who has done nothing or very little and nothing even close to what you've accomplished, who will try to tell you how to accomplish the things you want to accomplish. And so once you realize that, you realize this is a dichotomy I'm going to have to live with. This is a part of the journey. So I just need to learn how to have grace for these people and stay focused.
Yeah, there was something I was talking about in the podcast one time, was just people need to learn how to have compassion for others, because we are in a society where, again, going back to social media, where it's so easy to, if somebody posts something, you see them doing something wrong, and then, or you think it's wrong, and then you criticize them, and there's no consequence. Like, you can say whatever you want, and then, as I said, people are posting so much content on to the next day. If people see that post that you made or that comment you made, cool. If they don't, whatever. There's no consequences. And I think that having compassion for the people who just say reckless things online or in person, whatever it be, I think it's great when people can understand, like, exactly what you were talking about. Is some people just don't know what it's like to live a different kind of lifestyle. They don't know what it's like to be that extremely motivated person. And I'm sure there are people who were criticizing some of the greatest athletes of all time and saying that they're doing it wrong. And then they become successful. And like you said, now you have to respect it, because it was first you were criticizing, and now you have to witness and respect. So it's a problem, but those people will learn their lesson eventually by having to sit back and watch that person succeed.
The thing that like really soaked in, you know, when I started thinking like this, right? Because I used to have a much bigger problem with these dynamics. Like, this used to offend me. I didn't understand why people didn't understand, why people couldn't let me be, and blah blah blah. But there was one specific thought that kind of changed my whole perspective on this. Like, a lot of the times when people are trying to change your course, or they're trying to convince you to move differently, yes, some of the time that's out of ego, right? A lot of the time it's out of love, right? Like, these people are trying to protect you from hard times, you know what I'm saying? From pain and discomfort, right? Like,
They're seeing the risk that you're taking.
absolutely, right. They're seeing the risk that I'm taking, you know, and they don't want me to, to succumb to these risks or to these potential issues, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, that's when I really began to learn how to have grace. Was I realized, like, oh, these people are trying to protect me. They just don't know. I'll say this. I had a moment. One time I was in Manhattan. I had just gotten. I'm about to date myself. I had just gotten the 30 gigabyte black iPod. You know what I'm saying? And it was popping. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I was on the train in Midtown Manhattan, and I remember I was listening to it, and I remember looking around and being like, "Yo, I wonder if I should have my iPod out. I don't know. Somebody might try to snatch it. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Maybe I should, tuck it in, type shit. You know what I'm saying?" I just remember like a few days later, I was on the train again because I had to take that train to get to Quad. I was on the train again with my iPod, and I looked around and I looked at people looking at me, and I was like, "Oh man, they trying to snatch my iPod, bro. I see y'all. I know what it is, bro." A couple of days later, the same thing happened. You know what I realized? Wait a minute. Y'all are afraid of me. Y'all are not, casing me. Y'all think I'm casing you.
That's crazy.
Right? Again, and then I thought about it. Wait a minute. I'm not deep in Brooklyn. This is Midtown Manhattan.
Yeah.
These folks think I'm gonna rob them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then that's when I realized, like, that was the first time that I realized, like, wait a minute. There are some scenarios where I have the potential to be overly cautious, but in actuality, I'm the villain. I'm the monster in the room. And I realized, like, I don't know, once I had that thought, I took that with me in every scenario, right? Scenarios where people would be concerned for me, I thought to myself, I get it. That's because you don't know I'm the monster in the room. They do.
Yeah.
They can look in my eyes and see that dude's not playing. He's serious.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and one way or another, I came here to get something, and I'm going to do that, And so, yeah, I recognize that. I recognize that people judge scenarios and events and safety through their life's experiences, not through yours, right? And my life experiences suggest that I'm going to get what I came here for. You know what I'm saying? And that's not ego. Like, that's on paper. If I look at all the things that I've ever had ambitions for, right? I never look in the mirror and say I'm handsome. I go off of the evidence.
Yeah.
Right? And the evidence would suggest that when I set my mind to something, the way I set my mind to things, because I can typically be kind of obsessed and go into extreme detail, right? When I do that, things generally work out.
Yeah.
And so what may be a risk for you is not as much of a risk for me.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, again, I just had to learn to realize, like, I get it, man. Like, you're afraid you're gonna get dunked on. I can actually jump though.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm saying? You can't. So I get that you're afraid. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It won't, I might get dunked on, but I'm less likely to.
Yeah. It's having that confidence in your abilities, in your skills. You said it great by saying, you might be afraid to get dunked on, but I'm not, because I know what I'm capable of. And just that whole, realizing you could be the villain in the room. I think that's such a powerful thing for a lot of people to understand. I think that helps people understand the concept of what strength is. To me, like, true strength is knowing how to use your power. Because, for instance, like, you could be, I don't know if you've ever seen, like, people who do, like, CrossFit or calisthenics. Like, you'll see power lifters or strongmen who can't do 3 pull-ups. They're a really strong person, but they just can't do that movement.
Sure.
And then people who can do calisthenics, or there's a famous video of a rock climber. This rock climber he's like one of the best in the world, but he was working out with some of the strongest power lifters, and he was doing everything they were doing. And they were mind blown. They were like, dude, you're like half our size. How are you doing this stuff?
Yeah.
But it's because he knows how to use his power. And that's what I mean by like true strength is actually knowing how to use your power. And in that metaphor, or that actual real life situation that you're not even metaphor, real life situation.
Yeah.
The metaphor for it is the fact that you knew that these people were looking at you in a certain way, that you could be the villain. You now understood, oh, I have the power in the room.
Absolutely.
But you chose not to just go around, stealing or pull out a gun and be like, all right, everybody, hands up.
Yeah.
You have the strength to be able to control who you are and control the room.
Absolutely.
And some people just don't have that. When you see, mass shooters and stuff like that, they don't have the strength to control what's in their brain. It might be a chemical imbalance, something, but they're just going through something that they're unable to control. But it happens that way.
I think the underlying thing, or the underlying like ingredient, to this conversation, is that I have confidence in my skills, in my knowledge, but that confidence is secondary. What is primary to me is that I have confidence in my habits. Like I have a winner's habits. I am only a winner because of the things I do consistently. Right? So I don't consider myself a born winner. I'm just a winner because I exist. No. I'm a winner because winners have habits. They have things that they do regularly, you know what I'm saying, that aid in your winning. So, like that's what I believe in. And that's what gives me the confidence, even when I go into rooms where I don't know what's going to be in there, is that I know that I am probably built for whatever's in there because I have confidence in what I do daily, weekly, monthly, hourly. That those are things that are building muscles of mine I am not even aware of. Like that's what I depend on. Yeah.
And you could say that for like most engineers. Like you can tell. One time you had asked this. It might have been a really long time ago. I don't remember. But you had put that on Facebook. Like, what's the difference between like an engineer and something? I forgot what you had said.
We were just talking about that a couple of days ago.
But I think my answer to that was, can you be a problem solver? So I think the real definition of like a great engineer is if you give them whatever, FL Studio, Luna, Pro Tools, Ableton, whatever system.
You trying to get the Apollo sponsorship?
Whatever DAW you give them, whatever hardware you give them, whatever software, and they can solve that problem. That makes a special engineer because they can work through anything.
I couldn't agree more, man. We were having this conversation. So we have a podcast called Type Beat, and it's specifically for, you got to come on there, Jack. Bro.
Okay.
Yeah, you got to come on there. Specifically for producers, engineers. And the last Saturday, the discussion was, at what point are you confidently an engineer, right? Like, this is it simply you have the software and you know how to hit record? Are you? Is it okay to call you an engineer now? You know what I'm saying? Like, or is there a certain competency and certain depth of knowledge necessary? And then if so, what is that?
Yeah.
What is that milestone?
Yeah.
Right. And I don't think we ever locked in on these specific knowledge sets, but I do think that we locked in on the idea that like an engineer is like innately curious, right? Which to me is like you never become a problem solver if you're not curious as to how something works.
Yeah.
So that's like the underbelly of that. It's just raw curiosity, like tinkering with things, taking it apart and putting it back together starts with curiosity.
Yeah.
And I find that like, if you have software or hardware, right, and you're mostly interested in the final product, then that means you know how to use this stuff.
Mm.
But I'm not sure if you're an engineer.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Now, if you have these devices and these things, and you obviously you're curious and you want to create the greatest final product, but you also have an innate curiosity about, okay, what kind of final products can I make with these machines? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, okay, if I want the vocals to sound like this, how do I do that?
Yeah.
Problem solving now, right?
Yeah.
And then like the feeling of like, okay, I want to take time to learn, again, there's a spectrum of this. It's not, I don't need you to know every transistor or every, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But like, if you don't know your preamp is a tube preamp, you might not be an engineer. You know what I'm saying? Like if you took the time to say, okay, no, I want a tube preamp because tube preamps X, Y, and Z. Okay, there's that curiosity. There's that, that want to tinker and learn and know the details.
Yeah.
For me, that is somewhere where that line begins. And like, just to agree with you by saying 10,000 words is I agree. Problem solving is directly linked, but to me, that's a function of that curiosity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I always tell people, like, anytime I'm explaining something to somebody, I don't just tell them, like, so for instance, if I was working with somebody and I was telling them, like, I want your vocal to sound like this, and this is how I'm going to do it. I do that because I want them to understand that it's kind of like I want them to understand how I am good at what I'm doing. And it's not so much to just like boast, like, I'm so good I can do this. It's more or less to show them how confident I am that this product is going to be a good product because of what I just did.
Sure.
And so, like, I wanted to create a vocal that sounded a certain way. And I told them, like, I'm putting this plugin on your vocal so that it will sound just like this.
Sure.
And then I basically disabled the plugin and like, this is what it sounds like without it. And this is what it sounds like with it. And they're like, oh, I'm like, exactly. So I want them to see that, number one, I have confidence that what I just did is going to work. And then two, I want them to know that I am confident in what I'm doing because I want to kind of build that trust. Yeah. Like, oh, if I get you to work on my next project, you're going to know what you're doing. Like, I trust that you know what you're doing because you just explained it to you. You showed your work. So I think that's important for people.
It's incredibly important. I'll list another reason why I might even do the same thing, right? Is that I find that like generally people new to the world of recording, I think that people think of things in a binary way. I think people think good and bad. They don't realize like there are many options, versions of good.
Yeah.
Right. And so when you can say like, okay, I want your vocal to sound like this, right? Then you're what they're receiving in that moment is like, oh, wait a minute, there's different options, there's different versions, you know what I'm saying? Oh, well, what if it can sound like this? No, I've witnessed this a million times. I've worked with artists like that, and I'll be like, okay, I want your voice to sound a little bit spooky or whatever, you know what I'm saying? And then you mess with, roll off some of the top, you mess with the reverb a little bit, you know what I'm saying? Blah, 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 and then all of a sudden it's like, days later, they've gone back and listened to their favorite stuff, and now they're coming back knowing that they have options now.
Yeah.
Okay, wait a minute. So on this track, I want it to feel a little bit like this and like that. But they first have to get presented like there are many versions of good.
Yeah.
And like I love watching people. I'll never forget, bro. Big shout out. One of the funniest people ever, man. Cameron, bro. Like, one of my first sessions at Quad was with Cameron, and I'll never forget the Avalon you got. Like he walked in Studio C, and he was like, "Y'all ain't got the Avalon?" You know what I'm saying? And at the time, Studio C didn't have the Avalon, and he was just like, "Okay, well, y'all need to rent one. Can y'all call the rent one?"
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? And they was like, okay, hold on. And he was like, if y'all can't get it, I'm gonna go to another studio. And I just remember, we got the Avalon in, it was all good. But what I what I learned in that moment, I was so impressed with how much a rapper understood the vocal chain and the technical side of how to deliver a product that sounds like him. You know what I'm saying? And I had a newfound respect for that. And I love when artists, when you understand the things outside of yourself that help you deliver the product you want to deliver.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I love it when artists know about their world and their ecosystem.
Yeah.
Because it's your music.
Yeah.
You should be a visionary of these things, and the more you know about them, like every artist shouldn't have to be an engineer, but if you know something about engineering, now you can convey what you want in a nuanced and specific way, so that somebody who is an engineer not only can do it, but feels more confident that what they're doing is delivering you the product you want.
Yeah. You can speak the language.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and there's definitely a language in the studio.
Absolutely.
If you've never recorded music, or if you want to start recording music, I would highly suggest you do exactly what he said. Like, just know the equipment. Like, if you're an artist that all you do is go to the studio and you record with somebody, I would definitely suggest, like, try to find a way, get a small budget, and just get some recording equipment at home and practice doing it. Number one, you'll find a newfound respect for what a professional is, somebody who's actually doing it. That's just like, if you don't think baseball is impressive, try doing exactly what those people are doing.
I just went through that with golf. I mean, just to
Actually,
my
feel
bad, I
free
cut you
to
off.
continue talking about that, because I know y'all been posting about that a lot with the PGA Tour thing. So, but keep going.
Yeah. No, I was, you watch golf on TV and it's some guy swinging a metal thing. You know what I'm
It
saying?
doesn't
It's
look
just like,
complicated.
yeah, it's like, all right, that's what's up. You know what I'm saying? But when you see it up close and personal, it's different. It's like, oh damn, like there's you recognize, scientifically how strategic it is, but then you also recognize, like, athletically,
Yeah.
what is required of somebody physically to accomplish these things, and then more importantly, to accomplish these things consistently. To go through 18 holes is like, damn, you gotta be a real G, you know what I'm saying? To kind of pull some of this stuff off. Like, and so I just, I enjoy, like, I actually enjoy updates to my firmware. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
once you witness something up close and personal, oh man, I can't think about this the way I thought about it before.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how many people. I found that is not a common thing.
Yeah.
Some people, I dare say a lot of people, don't like updating their software. I love it. I love feeling like, okay, now I know something I didn't know, so now I'm smarter.
Yeah.
But yeah, just to go further into that, we've been working with the PGA, the FedEx St. Jude Championship. Man, it's been an interesting experience that, to be quite frank, hasn't even really started yet. To make a long story real short, man, I had a meeting with Joe from the PGA and then DCA, a company downtown, marketing company, and and they're just looking to change the identity of golf. Right? So, like,
It's very country club,
yeah,
which literally country clubs have golf courses on them. And it's not very outsider friendly.
no, not at all. You know what I'm saying? It hasn't been. And I think that they are attempting to change that. We had to have, it is, it's also going to be, like I said, it's going to be a long ride, because, we're talking about a multi-year plan here to introduce and make golf significantly more accessible and inclusive for a predominantly Black city that hosts one of the biggest championships, in the sport of golf.
Yeah.
And so it's a challenge. There's things that there are clear issues that I think, to some extent I saw, but, once you have the actual experience, you go to a tournament, you see things. You see things, and some of the reasons why, people have previously thought about golf a certain way, again, it's not like I needed, like nothing slapped me in the face.
Yeah.
But up close and personal, you get confirmed.
Yeah.
In some of these thoughts, and you're like, okay,
verified.
here's the issue. Yeah. Here's the issue, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm looking forward to a very genuine and sincere approach to change over time. It's something that I love to do. I love to, the brand is unapologetic. Like, the slogan is where vulnerability becomes art and weird becomes genius. We're dedicated to pioneering, innovation and change. And those words don't happen in places of familiarity, in places of safety. They happen in places people don't expect you to be. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's why, I had somebody ask me, like, man, you guys are working with the PGA and you're involved with this golf stuff. Like, is that on brand for Unapologetic? I was like, yeah. And they were like, I don't think it's on brand for Unapologetic. And I was like, what? So we should just be hooping? We should just be playing basketball? Like, that's on because we black? Like, what? You can't, you know what I'm saying? Like, why? And I was what I was trying to explain is like, everything we do is like to knock down a door, right? Doing this is extremely unexpected, which means it's very on brand for us. To be involved in this. And more importantly, like introducing, that's what innovation is all about and pioneering is all about. Yes, there are some issues historically with the sport of golf and, black folks and black cities. Absolutely. But what y'all want me to do? Like go where it's comfortable and claim I'm a pioneer?
Yeah.
That's not what this is. And you know what? Maybe somebody should do that. It's just not me.
We love you, IMAKEMADBEATS. Don't do that. Don't take those risks.
Exactly. There you go. It's people trying to protect me. They're trying to protect my image, my integrity, all of those things. You know what I'm saying? But the thing I would urge you to do or to think would be, hey, would you have even heard of me if I played it safe? Right? The only reason most of these people would even come to me and talk to me is because of the things I did that you wouldn't have done.
Yeah.
Right? If I did the things y'all would do, none of y'all would ever have heard of me. I wouldn't be on the cover of No Nothing. I wouldn't, you know what I'm saying? Like, and so sometimes I have to help people realize, like, I appreciate it. There's grace. I understand it's out of love and protection, no doubt, but like, I'm an explorer. Like I'm supposed to go to lands unknown and bring back something to tell y'all about it. You know what I'm saying? Like I changed my job title at Unapologetic. Now I am Chief Adventurer and Explorer. My job is to explore, find things, pioneer, innovate, introduce. That's my job as a creative, and that's an uncomfortable job.
Yeah.
But I know and deep in my heart, that's what I'm built to do.
Yeah. Yeah, some people are comfortable with being uncomfortable. And that's how I am. Like I love doing things that either most people aren't willing to do or most people don't really think to do. And like some people think to do stuff, but they just don't do it. And some people are willing to do it and they just aren't thinking about as much stuff. Like I think it's important for somebody to have both of those because that's how we get places. You were just talking about exploring, and I was thinking about just like Christopher Columbus, the story of him leaving his country and thinking he's going to hit India, but doesn't. But but somebody had to do it. Like somebody had to explore around and go places. And basically nobody had the balls to do it until he decided and got the funding that he needed to go explore. But you don't know who Christopher Columbus is if he doesn't make that trip.
That's it.
And there are like exactly what you just said. Like if you were doing the things that other people wanted you to do, you'd be them. But you're doing the things that you want to do, so that makes you you.
Absolutely.
And it's important for people to have that mindset of, I get what you're trying to do. Like my mom is huge on this. My mom is always like, you need to come back to Alabama. You need to live here and all this stuff. And she doesn't want me to move away. I would love to live in Japan. Like I've never been to Japan. I love Japanese culture and everything like that. I would love to live there, just see what it's like. I would love to live in Europe. Never been. But it's just things that I think about. And so that's what I was talking about. There's people who think about it, and there's people who just go do it. And I'm trying to do both of those. I want to live outside the country just to experience it. And I think that it's important for people who have the mindset of, I get what my loved ones want me to do, which is be safe. Don't take those risks and stay close to home. But I'm still going to do what I want to do, because that's why you love me in the first place, is because that's what I've been doing my whole life, is just doing my own thing.
Yeah. And you know, like I said, man, I couldn't agree more. I just love all the, you know, the people who would criticize, you know, these things about what I want to do. I still love them. They love me, and that's just how they've learned to show their love.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, you know, and I love and I appreciate that. But it is important though to, when you can, be around people who understand that dynamic.
Yeah.
Right. You know, and that was extremely important for my journey. You know, I'll never forget, man. Like I felt like an octopus chilling with, like, you know, a rhinoceros. You know what I'm saying? Most of my life. You know what I'm saying? And you know, as soon as I felt like I was around people that wouldn't, you know, be afraid of my ideas, but might even push my ideas. You know, I like, that's when my life changed.
It's refreshing.
It was so refreshing that it allowed me to continue, you know, because it's one thing to have an idea and then immediately get met with like doubt and pessimism. Then it's like you have this idea and now you're just spending this time, you know, discussing with somebody whether or not it's going to work. But at the same time, you can have an idea and then the person you're telling it to take your idea further. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, and then you get excited that you weren't shut down, but now you're sampling their version of your idea and taking that further, you know. And once you witness that, like in some sort of, or once you're a part of something like that, in some sort of incubation over the span of like 3 to 6 months, you come out a different person. Like what you think is possible is no longer limited to yourself. You know, I used to think like the things that are possible are the things that like only I can depend on me to do. But when you get around people who think like you in this regard, now your thoughts can involve more hands, more minds, and all of a sudden what's possible changes dramatically. You know, that's how Unapologetic happened. It was, I mean, it started with me and, you know, a college student at the time who had just turned 21 named Kid Maestro. You know, I don't know if it's just because he's particularly an optimistic guy or just because he was young. Young people tend to be more optimistic.
Yeah.
Right? They just tend to believe anything is possible. You know, but I was telling him my ideas and, you know, we laugh and joke about it all the time, but like, you know, I'll tell regular people or just anybody, I'll say, hey, you know what, we should get a helicopter. And people would be like, yo, man, you crazy, bro. That's hilarious, man. And just move on. But if I would say, yo, Kid Maestro, we should get a helicopter, he's just going to stare at me. He's going to walk out the room. And he's going to come back and he's going to be like, all right, helicopter rentals for the weekend are a little bit cheaper than helicopter rentals for during the week. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's just like, when you're surrounded by that, anything's possible.
Yeah.
You know, and so I would advise anyone who's feeling that dissonance, like I described, growing up feeling, man, do whatever it takes. And I mean that. I mean, put a priority and urgency on interdependence, right? Because I feel like what everybody hops into is independence. Well, I'm just gonna do it by myself.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it on my own. I can depend on me, you know. Interdependence is when independent people work together.
Yeah.
is when they know I can survive on my own, but together, right, we can make something crazy.
Yeah.
I would tell you, prioritize interdependence. Find other people who are independent, who don't need you, but together you multiply. And things will change, That's been my experience.
That's that Voltron Power Ranger mindset.
I was thinking Voltron. I was like, I already dated myself. So.
Yeah, I definitely think that's a great thing. And I'm glad you started talking about Maestro because I wanted to kind of get into like the people that you're working with, the roles that they fill. You just said you're chief adventurer and explorer.
Yeah.
What are the different roles that you have within Unapologetic? And
That's a great question.
And how those people are fulfilling those roles up to your standards.
Yeah. All right. So I think we did this like the artist reckless way. You know what I'm saying? I don't think we did this, the entrepreneur way, which is the way I understand now. But when this all got started, it was not that. It was simply me at the helm, Kid Maestro as my assistant, the first artist to be signed to Unapologetic, which was Cameron Bethany. We had Kat Patton as our photographer and Aaron Harris as our event coordinator. And little known facts, I've said it a few times, but most people don't know. Unapologetic actually started out as a partnership. So it was supposed to be a kind of Jimmy Iovine, Dr. Dre relationship, maybe a Jay and Dame kind of relationship where one of us is more executive business leaning and the other is more, involved in the business, but definitely more artist culture focusing, right? So I think the Dre Jimmy Iovine comparison is probably the best in explaining the working roles, but it was more of a Rockefeller vibe in terms of ownership, right? The shared ownership. So it was actually myself and a friend of mine named Wes who came together to initially partner to build Unapologetic. I was clearly supposed to be Dr. Dre. You know what I'm saying? I was only supposed to work with developing our artists, engineering everything, producing, whatever was necessary. Being an artist myself, the very first project we released was my own. And finding talent, just the studio guy. I'm the guy in the studio who makes sure everything happens, you know what I'm saying? And Wes was gonna be, brand partnerships, all the executive roles, networking, handling of distribution, accounting. He was supposed to handle all the things that you would find on a spreadsheet. You know what I'm saying? But that didn't really work out. I won't really go into the details, just out of respect and personal, information. But we couldn't really move forward with him in that partnership. And so it all kind of fell on me to be both. And I felt like when I told my team that would mess up things. But no, everybody, I told my team, that, hey, we've lost half of our funding. We've lost, a big chunk of the executive role coverage. And I'm not exactly sure what we're going to do. And everybody said, nah, man, we riding with you regardless. So I had to learn how to try to balance these worlds of being an artist, producer, and engineer, and then like flying to random cities to create relationships to build, to either get or even at some point give people publishing deals, and all the things while still being uniquely curious about getting better as an artist and as a musician. At this point, even saying that out loud sounds insane. I'm just being honest. Like when I think about it over the years, people would be like, "Yo, how do you balance it?" I'd be telling people, "I didn't. I don't know how you do that."
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I didn't. I swung from extreme to extreme. I went through bouts of mental distress, and at times, I don't, unless it's like real depression. I don't like saying depression, but at times I did go through depression, just to clarify, I just feel like that word is kind of overused now,
Yeah.
in terms of the severity of that.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like people are too comfortable saying that. But, I went through a lot, I've played every role at Unapologetic, from the janitor to the CEO, you know what I'm saying? Now, over time, we grew, and that was beautiful, right? So at the end of 2019, and this is just God, man. At the end of 2019, so at the end of every year, we do a kind of, we have like an interview process where we interview all the artists and all the people involved, and we say, how was the year good? How was the year not so good? What do you want to accomplish next year? And a big part of that is, okay, let's think about leadership, right? If you had any criticisms for leadership this year, what would it be? If you had any compliments for leadership this year, what would it be? And then what would be your advice to me as a leader going into next year? And we do that every year, to get an accurate account of where everybody is, how everybody's feeling about the machine itself. And at the end of 2019, I did that with Kid Maestro. And I told him, I said, would you be interested in stepping up, further into the executive branch of this and becoming the president of Unapologetic? And yeah, he has always he's different from me, where I don't feel like I'm a natural leader. I feel like I've become a leader. You know what I'm saying? I feel like I'm a natural nerd introvert. Just tinkering with things and struggling to explain what I just did. You know what I'm saying? Whereas Kid is, he has the makings of a natural leader. And so yeah, he gravitated towards the position. He took it. Now, interestingly, and this is why I say this was God, was that was the end of 2019. 2 months later, the pandemic would erupt, right? And then a month after that would be the onset of a neurological disorder that I have. So I haven't felt the left side of my face in just over 4 years. And I have pain in my hands and in my legs pretty much every day.
Wow.
So I spent most of 2020 and 2021 like rebuilding myself, like, because it's not just the physical part, right? It's not just like, okay, I have pain and I've lost feeling. Like, you lose a sense of who you are, like your identity, like I had extreme bouts of fatigue, and I still go through that, you know what I'm saying? And in my head, I'm just wondering, am I the wolf I always was, or am I now like a puppy that requires care and and that's that did a lot of damage to my idea of myself. And so I had to react. I had to change I lost a quarter of my body weight, I had to figure I couldn't use this hand for maybe about 6 weeks,
Dang.
And this hand was kind of messing up, but it never got as bad as this one. And I'm a music producer.
Yeah.
Like, think about how that lands on you.
Yeah. It's your money makers.
And there's this strange neurological thing happening that is happening also while COVID is happening.
Yeah.
So I had to wait till August. This happened to me in April. I had to wait till August to see a neurologist because everybody was dealing with COVID.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I'm saying all that to say, like, kids stepped up a few months before this, took on the roles and responsibilities of president, and that allowed me the space to rebuild myself.
Yeah.
Right. And it also, trial by fire, put kid through what was necessary to actually be a leader. Like,
Yeah.
I wasn't around to like
Yeah.
ask a question every 5 minutes. Like, he had to, if you're gonna do it, you need to do it because I'm trying to figure out how to hold my phone. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and so he did. He stepped up. He did. He did the job and he did it well. And I knew that I had chosen the right person, for this. And through that though, it's one thing. Like when your team sees someone who at some point was the youngest person, the most clueless person. When I started Unapologetic, I told Kid, I was like, hey, bro, I don't know what your role is, but you got to figure that out, bro. That's not on me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I keep it real with him. Like, bro, like whether or not you're here next year, it's not going to be because I'm being nice. If you have to find a way to be a factor in this machine.
Yeah.
You find that way and you're a factor, and you'll stay in this machine. And he did. He did it well, and but once people see that, you see somebody go from being at the bottom of the totem pole, where when we dropped Stuntarius 1, he didn't even get no beats on the project because I just didn't think he was good enough yet. To Stuntarius 2, he produces the first song on the project. And now, he's all over the place. Once people see that progression, it helps other people understand what it looks like, to start from here and to get here.
Yeah.
And, that example helps create more leaders.
Yeah.
Right. And once you show that it is possible. And so now, we have, we have Offam, who is an artist, but Offam is also the president of Unapologetic Garments. So our partnerships with the Grizzlies, our partnerships with the PGA, the clothing and the merchandise that we create, these all go through Offam. C. Mage, he's a brand producer and engineer, but he's also, he plays a significant role in the Unapologetic Garments process as well. And he's the guy, he's like essentially like our store czar. So all of our retail, all the things, the current state of the store, stock, all that kind of stuff, C. Mage handles that. We now have Nikita Spencer, who is our program manager at Outer Space. Outer Space is our studio. So whether we're working with nonprofit organizations to help kids out, or we're organizing events in the studio that happen quarterly and things like that, those all go through Nikita. So Nikita is the one who does the outreach. Right now, we're partnering with the Museum of Science and History. That's why we have this big ass astronaut on top of the building right
that was
now.
really cool.
Yeah, thank you, man. That was, Nikita played a big role in help setting that up. She helps. She's also getting into PR too now. So a lot of what we're, the things we want to get seen and heard, she's gonna play a big role in. We now have Frankie. Frankie, she was a production engineer assistant. I'm sorry, production engineer intern. But there's something about people who prove themselves resourceful to where they can be and do anything.
Yeah.
Like if you position yourself as a solver of issues, right? Anybody who's busy just needs somebody who can solve problems and not ask me to solve them everything. Like
Yeah.
you could just everything on the corner of that desk, you can solve that. You don't need it. Just please do it. You know what I'm saying? Like because I have the rest of this I have to deal with.
Yeah.
You know. And Frankie was a producer engineer intern, but she was proving to be extremely resourceful. That you know when it was time to hire an assistant for me specifically. You know, we hired her and she's killing it, you know what I'm saying? So now we have, you know, her at the helm of my assistant. And being my assistant means you play a lot of roles, you know. I mean, she helped set up a lot for us and for Hypebeast. She was hired as a production assistant for our Hypebeast shoot. So she wasn't just there. Hypebeast also hired her to help them manage us. Like
That's crazy.
You know, but again, once you prove to be resourceful, people want to hire you to help solve issues. And so Frankie is kind of all over the place. She handles my scheduling. She handles a lot of, I think you emailed her.
Yeah.
So that was Frankie, yep. And then we got Marie. Marie is my wife. Marie is our project manager. Essentially, if you email the management email, or if you email to interview Unapologetic, to involve Unapologetic in anything, you go through my wife. Yeah. And then we newly have Andrea Lau as our booking manager. So our artists who are going on tour locally, you know, in terms of setting up shows, setting up the deals, all things, getting press for those events, Andrea Lau. She's the one who makes those things happen. This is one of them jumps where I know if I forget somebody about to have a problem. Hey, man, I ain't had no coffee, you know what I'm saying?
Well, I do think it's great that you even went into detail the people that you could think of immediately and talk about the roles, because I think it's important for people, number one, you know, just what Memphis is and knowing you have a company and it's not just, you know, something that you're just calling it. You know what I mean? Like you've got people who have roles,
I know where you're going with this, and I agree. Go ahead.
Because some people, they're just saying, you know, we are this and, you know, this is what we're doing. But it's like, do your people actually have roles? Do they actually have positions? You know, are they getting paid to do what they do? All that kind of stuff. And I think sometimes it's great to differentiate that from what other people are doing, because it's important to know. It's kind of like that, I guess, validity or seriousness about it, especially if somebody wanted, because I know y'all were talking about hiring interns and whatnot. It helps people know that, hey, like we're serious about this. And if you aren't serious, then this probably isn't for you.
Yeah.
Because, and I think that is great to say something like that. Like some people, they need to know that there's exclusivity to what you're doing. Like you might not fit in with me.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people in Memphis who
Don't
just
like that.
yeah, they don't like it. They can't differentiate themselves from people who are at the top. Like we see people like Moneybagg Yo and Glorilla and all these people, like they go to stardom and then they think, oh, that could be me too. Maybe you can't. Like, and that's okay. Like that's okay that you, number one, I think it takes humility to say I'm not good enough to do what that person is doing.
Sure.
And then number two, even if you are good enough, maybe that's not what's meant for you. And I think I had to make a post about this one time because I knew a guy who said that he needed artists to perform in like Germany. And so I posted about it and I said, hey, you know, I'm looking for artists who can perform in Germany. And like everybody that I knew was like, oh, I can do this. I'm just like, you can't do this. And I'm not even going to put your name up for it because I don't think you can do this.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people, they just see, you know, if they know somebody who has an opportunity, they think, oh yeah, let me do it. And it's like, this isn't for you. Like not every opportunity is for you.
You know, again, man, like, okay, let me think about how I want to phrase this. You know, I have friends who, again, let's go back to that engineer conversation, right? So, you know, I a big part of why we even ask that question, like when under what set of knowledge or experience have you reached a milestone to be able to say, I am now an engineer confidently. And you can be around other engineers and they will recognize you as an engineer, right?
Yeah.
Okay. The where that conversation even comes from is the idea that people are seeing themselves as ready for something before they're ready for something.
Yeah.
Right. And that in some ways I admire that, right? But there's about a balance of these energies. So what I mean by that is like, when people said like dress for the position that you want to attain, I like that.
Yeah.
Right. You can dress for the position of manager, but you're not the manager. You know what I'm saying? But I find that dressing for the position of manager in this social construct we're in now can get you perceived as a manager, which will definitely play into you thinking you're a manager.
Yeah.
But you're not.
False confidence.
Right. And you're leaning on the fact that because you dress like a manager, other people think you're a manager, but you're still not a manager. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But you're right. I tell people all the time, like, I'm not optimistic. I'm not pessimistic. I'm accurate. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't aim, like, I try to accurately assess my standing, right? Everybody has some level of bias in your own standing. Like there's a limitation to how objective you can be about you because you're in you, but you can try your best and you can have a self-awareness that allows you to say, okay, I might not be as good as this as I think I am, right? Let's let the numbers tell the truth. Because numbers and measurements will tell the truth, right? Okay. But I think what people get caught up in is that you either have to think you're the best, and if you don't think you're the best, then people will say like, you are pessimistic about or you don't believe in yourself. When in actuality, like most things, the answer is in the middle, right? I'm not the best, and it is me acknowledging that that's gonna help me get better. If I just thought I was the best, why would I train?
Yep.
Why would I try to get in? Why would I learn? Why would I go and seek knowledge? Right? But it's also me knowing, I may need to get better at something, but where I am now is pretty fucking good. You know what I'm saying? Like and where I am now is not based off of any innate, knowledge set or anything. It's off of habits. Where I am now is because of the habits I set years ago. And where I want to be later will be because of the habits I set today.
Yeah.
And so that idea, like, I try not to get involved with conversations or debates that surround this kind of idea because I find that any criticism of like, hey, I know you're calling yourself a manager, but is immediately hating. Right? It's immediately hating. It's not even about like I'm telling you you're this, not this, because I want to help you become this.
Yeah.
But as soon as you tell them, there's an immediate like, oh, you hating, oh, you don't see the vision, bro. You whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so what I find though is that the people who will go from this to this are the first to say, I am unqualified. I need to become qualified.
Yeah.
Right? Kid Maestro is my greatest example. When I met Kid at the U of M, he was one of the smartest, most like bright people there, right? But when he came to me, he was on some like, he didn't say I know nothing, but he was pretty much on some like, I know nothing. You know what I'm saying? And he spent years coming to my house every day, just learning. You know, now he's Miss Lauryn Hill's playback engineer. You know, now he has a gold plaque. You know what I'm saying? And he's super. He's done a lot of things. But I can't imagine a kid maestro that on day one he was also calling himself an engineer. No, he wasn't.
Yeah.
He sat next to me and felt like that guy is an engineer. I am here to learn.
Yeah.
Now he's an engineer.
Yeah.
And he can say that confidently. He can be around other engineers and they would recognize him. But there is something that I think people get confused about: your desire to be something or to be somewhere, and like, it's okay to not be there.
Yeah.
It's okay to say, I want to be this. I am not that yet.
Yeah.
Right? That is not condemning yourself. That's not being negative.
Yeah.
That's being accurate. Now, accuracy is what's going to help you become this.
Yeah.
I don't know where that idea got lost at some point. I don't, you know what I'm saying?
And again, I would contribute it to social media, like putting on a facade and being able to display whatever you want. Like on social media, you can be whoever you want to be.
That's facts.
It doesn't matter where you're actually at. Yeah. You can tell people, put your link in bio and all this information that you can put in your bio saying you've done this. Who's going to fact check you? Like, like you can say whatever you want. And like I did this the other day. It was something funny I saw somebody do one time, and I was like, I'm going to do that all the time because that's hilarious. People might take it seriously, but I don't care. I took a photo at the Dixon Museum. Jupiter Jones, one of the artists that I work with, she performed there during a community event, and I went through the garden there. And I saw this really cool sculpture. And I took a picture of it, and it was just like a cool little background and of everything, of like the plants that were around it. And I put the location as like Florence, Italy. No, I'm not in Florence. I'm in Memphis.
Like, damn, bro, you out here.
But I just thought it was funny because you can do that. Like, nobody knows that I'm still in Memphis. They don't know that. But I just think it's hilarious that you're able to do that. And people are probably doing that all the time. But on a serious note, they're probably seriously like, I need to show people I'm all over the world and doing it. But it's like, dude, you don't have to do that.
I think that is incredibly sad, man.
It is.
I think that is like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know, man. Sometimes I feel like I lack perspective on this.
Which can be a good thing. Like, to not know what people are going through can also be a good thing.
Yeah. I just I think because I have a team and I engage with community and community building. You know what I'm saying? Like I have a desire to even understand things socially that I don't understand, just for the sake of knowing that, like, I'm probably going to engage folks who do this. You know what I'm saying? Like, I should probably try to understand how they come to these conclusions, but it always just ends up like, like, you don't have to act like you can actually win. Like, it doesn't have to be you don't have to pretend. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like you could actually go and win.
Yeah.
Like, it's not and I'm gonna be, and I say that knowing that, like, there are some extremely hard wins.
I'm just thinking about like the Olympic team. Like, if they were like, man, let's figure out how we can cheat to win. It's like, guys, no, you can just go out and win.
Train. You can just go and get strong.
Yeah.
And actually win. Like, and then you won't be, hoping somebody expose you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just, and I say that because, okay, so then you have things like the Olympics, right? Which are highly esteemed things, you just get to the Olympics, you're amazing, except for that breakdancing. You know what I'm saying? But other than that, you know what I'm saying? Like, just to get to the Olympics is amazing.
It's amazing,
You know what I'm saying? But that's not even what I'm talking about. Like we live in Memphis. Like some of these wins are very close to the ground. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't have to be an Olympic athlete.
Yeah.
In Memphis, a lot of the time, to rack up some wins, to get some successes, to get things that you can say that are true, and people will be like, oh, wow, this guy is actually doing something. Like, it's not hard.
Yeah.
So it just makes me think like, yo, this might be some like pathological thing. Like, you know, it's like if let me see that water, bro. All right, let's just say this is cheating and this is actually winning.
Yeah.
Right? I'm gonna put this an inch and a half further. Like, imagine somebody being like, well, this is the closest one, bro. Look how long your arms are. You could get there. Oh, sure, you got an inch and a half, but you can still get that one.
Yeah.
It just made me think like, okay, what is up with this person who gets this? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, by the way, which water was yours? Okay. But, you know, I don't know, man. I don't know if my mind is built to understand that dynamic, you know?
Yeah. And I think that that's a good thing. And some people, as I said, like they go through something mentally to where they only see the cheating part. Like people who are out there just stealing all the time.
Yeah.
So, for instance, if you go out and you steal a car, and then now let's just say you get caught, the risk of getting caught, right? So you get caught, you go to jail, and you have to pay a fine, whatever, court costs. You know, you got stuff on your record, or you could just go to work. You could just find a job and just go to work. Some people don't even think about that. They don't even think I could just go to work and pay for a car, and the car is legally mine. They would rather just go out and steal stuff and make money that way.
You know what though? And this is a grace moment, man. This is a grace moment. You're absolutely right. You know what? Maybe I do understand this perspective. I'll just say this: like you just reminded me of some things I've seen up close and personal. Where the person's example was somebody who cheated, like meaning like they didn't even. Their idea of how it is done is this one. It's not like they were never given the opportunity to learn that you can actually achieve by doing things the right way. You know?
Okay, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. You know, like their examples are just bad examples.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And once you realize that, then, you know, I guess I can understand why someone would feel like, okay, in order to accomplish this, we have to do it this way.
Yeah.
I mean, let me be clear. I would never give nobody a pass, and anybody who did that in and around my team would no longer be in and around my team.
Yeah.
But it does allow me to like, you know, feel like I have a little bit of comprehension on why these things get done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bad examples.
But like also thinking about that, I think a lot of people, number one, America is so different from so many other countries when it comes to like financial wise and business wise. And yet we fail to educate people on how to get those wins, because it's almost like America wants you to cheat to get those wins. But like, as long as nobody knows you did it, it's okay.
Yeah.
For instance, like business wise, a lot of people are like, the rich people need to be taxed more because they aren't paying enough taxes. What you don't understand is that they're writing off a bunch of stuff so that they don't have to pay those taxes.
We were talking about this yesterday, bro.
So even if we raise taxes for the rich, they're just going to find the loophole to get around those taxes. So that's not the solution to that problem. So a lot of people, again, going back to what you said, they just haven't been educated on how to get those wins. So they think I have to cheat my way to get those wins, when really you just don't know how to get those wins.
Yeah. No, that's a real thing, man. Or you just haven't seen what goes into a sincere version of those wins.
Yeah.
Like that's, um, it's weird because you want to have grace for those people because that's a sad thing,
Yeah.
But at the same time, you got to protect what you've built, and that's a mindset that can cause fires,
Absolutely.
and so stuff.
Before we wrap up,
Yeah.
I wanted to. I'm big on software and hardware, and every time I have somebody on that does engineering or any kind of music, I always have to ask these questions. So let's do software first. Your softwares of choice when it comes to, and you might be different for beat production and engineering. So give me those, and I'll say software is plugins as well. So let's do creation of choice, DAWs, and then also plugins that you like.
All right. So I am an MPC head. I've had an MPC for over a decade now. For maybe about 12 years now. No, 14 years. And of course, I started off with like the MPC 2000 XL, and it was running 8 outs into Pro Tools LE. My first one was the Digio 1, crazy. And then I had the 02 and then the 03. So that's, I primarily like to create an idea in the MPC. Now, with that being said, though, in the last 5 to 6 years, I've gotten much heavier in the world of scoring, right? So, and when I started scoring movies or short films, you know, a more linear approach seemed better, to being able to, Pro Tools has a video engine in it, so you can just drag a video in there and begin to like map out plot and scheme, play instrumentation, add all kinds of effects and sound design with a movie,
Yeah.
And so once I began to do that, and finish projects that way, I would go back and be like, okay, cool, let me just go back to making some beats. But like I was actually drawn to just doing it in Pro Tools.
Yeah.
I think where Pro Tools sucks the most is all things like MIDI. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
All things MIDI and like, MIDI construction. So like, everything from that world it's not as great. But I will say though, like in the last couple of years, it has been very clear that the people at Avid have recognized this hole and have started, in some ways better than others, but have started to try to fill that hole of like, oh damn, like people really just look at us as engineering. People don't really like to make beats in Pro Tools. Let's fill in some of these holes. And some of that stuff has been really intuitive and really helped me out a lot. Especially when they added audio to MIDI. When they added, that you could just drag in a piano loop audio and convert that to MIDI, I felt like, okay, you guys are actually thinking about producers now, And everything that came after that, I began to like more and more. So now it's kind of like a hybrid. On some days I might just pull up the MPC. On other days, I'll make a beat right in Pro Tools.
Okay.
And on some days, I do both. Some days, you can pull up the MPC as a plugin in Pro Tools, and I have my MPC hardware that is controlling the plugin in Pro Tools.
Okay.
That's Voltron. You know what I'm saying, right? That is the best of all worlds. And that's usually when I create the craziest stuff.
Okay.
So all right. So plugins specifically.
I guess let's go through like a chain. Like, what's your favorite EQs, compressions, and then maybe saturations, reverbs, delays?
Yeah. So my vocal chain starts off with an EQ, and it's just the Pro Tools stock EQ.
Okay.
It's the 7-band, and I'm mostly notching out like issues in the low mids. From like this is for my lead vocal. Then I'll hit a UAD 1176 Revision E
Okay.
compressor. Mid-level attack, slow release. Not really looking for too much reduction, but maybe 2 or 3 dB, in reduction. And then the way I kind of have it set up is so the way I mix, I don't use most of the time. I don't like compress anything with one compressor, right? So like I like to assign plugins to have very specific jobs.
Yeah.
So I learned that at Quad. Even in our vocal chain recording, vocals would generally hit 2 compressors. They would hit an 1176 and then an LA2A, or sometimes we'd use the compressor in the Avalon, you know what I'm saying? Something else, you know. And it's because you want one compressor that's set to catch things that happen fast.
Yeah.
And to control it in that way. And then you want another one that's gonna give it a round and smooth vibe that may affect it tonally.
Yeah.
Right? And that was generally maybe an optical compressor of some sort that is more to do with making it sound natural and warm.
Sorry to interrupt, but I think for people who don't understand music, I would say the best way to describe compressors is like cheese. Like there's so many different kinds of cheeses and they all have like a specific purpose.
Yeah.
Like if you go to Philly, they'll ask you, on your Philly cheesesteak, you want it with whiz. And that's saying they know that whiz cheese tastes great on this Philly. And if you want to put freaking, I don't know, like Swiss or something else on there, like a cheese that doesn't give it the right flavor, they're gonna be like, "What are you doing? You don't know what you're doing. You're putting the wrong thing right there."
Yeah.
So that's what James is talking about when it comes to compressors. Is basically he's using the certain compressors to do a specific job because that's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to fill this void in a certain way.
Yeah, and that's again, like that's realizing like there's more than one kind of successful compressor.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like there are some that are designed to be incredibly versatile. And then there are some that like very clearly do very specific things. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's why, I tell people all the time, like, to be good at Pro Tools isn't just to be good at Pro Tools.
Yeah.
It's like you have to know the tools inside Pro Tools. And
It's in the name, Pro Tools.
absolutely, that's it. I never even, I never even put that together. These are Pro Tools, no doubt. Like I think, so I would generally go from, basic notching out parametric EQ into an 1176. Then I'm gonna hit another EQ that kind of replenishes what the compressor is gonna kind of dull. So I'm kind of boosting some high end a bit, kind of notching out a little bit of the vocal range just to kill some harshness that's gonna happen in that compression. And I don't be shouting out waves, bro. I don't, but you know what I'm saying?
So many people love it and so many people hate it. So it's just kind of out there.
Yeah, after that I'll probably hit the Renaissance axe, you know what I'm saying? Just to kind of like in a semi-aggressive way, level it out. But yeah, then it's really just a series of I would say once I get past, oh no, my bad. Then I'll hit like either a fab filter, multiband, or the F6 from Waves, you know what I'm saying? Multiband compressor to kind of tame the 4 main bands in a vocal.
Yeah.
And it's different depending on the vocal. But the thing that I keep my eye on the most when it comes to multi-band compression on a vocal is the range between 900 and maybe 3.5K. and then also the range between 300 and maybe 450.
Okay.
Right? Like those are the things I really am pulling up the multiband for.
Okay.
To like be like, hey, calm down.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? Like, or to let you live in certain spots and calm down on other spots, versus like a static EQ that's just, pulling down regardless.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then Fat Filter Saturn 2 for saturation.
Yeah.
Damn, what else? And somewhere in there is a de-esser, probably right before the fat filter. Probably right before the fat filter. But I always use 2 de-essers.
Okay.
So I have one there. Then I add saturation. Then I'll pull up a UAD, Pultec, the 1A.
Yeah.
I love the 8K boost
Oh yeah.
on that one
Yeah.
once you adjust the bandwidth. Specifically because I love the shelf it creates, and then you got a chance to attenuate it.
Yeah.
Right? Which is a trick I learned at Quad.
It's like 5, 10, and 20, I think, are the attenuations.
Absolutely. I keep it at 20, boost this, and then just kind of meet it there and create this kind of like clarity peak. But then over here, it's chilling. It's not becoming abrasive because you overdid it, Then I'll do that, and then I go, once you do that, now it's time to hit another de-esser, you know what I'm saying? And then after that, it's everything's to taste, you know what I'm saying? I might add some further distortion. I might, I might even change the EQ. It depends on the voice. Reverbs, I'm a UAD junkie in that regard, man. The EMT 140. I rock with Soundtoys Super Plate, though. You know what I'm saying? I rock with Soundtoys Super Plate.
Yeah. I love Soundtoys.
Yeah, oh man, absolutely. Echo Boy, Tremolator, Pan Man. Those are my favorite plugins to automate.
Yeah.
I love the Soundtoys stuff. I think like that's for vocals. My favorite plugin in general, Decap Knock.
I haven't tried that one. I've heard a lot of people talking about it, but I haven't tried that one.
Hey, bro. Nah, because for years, man, my bread and butter as a producer and as an engineer has always been drums. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm addicted to like great drums, and so for years, the reason why I was even buying hardware pieces, which maybe now is a perfect segue into hardware, but like the reason why I was even buying hardware pieces was to get a very specific take on how to make drums bang. You know what I'm saying? And to sound warm and big, you know what I'm saying? Like I love my stuff to sound like I sampled it. You know what I'm saying? Like I love that kind of texture. So I was buying hardware stuff to get that natural saturation, that natural spacing. But you just develop these techniques of like saturation, clipping, transient shaping, filtering, all of these things to get these drums. And then Decap just comes in and puts it in one plugin and it sounds accurate. And then there's all kind of tricks with like, sub frequencies and turning any kick into an 808 at a very specific frequency. Yeah, that's my favorite plugin.
Okay.
I might put that down, but I won't put that on the master.
Just for the echo.
But no, I love that plugin. It's incredibly intuitive. Yeah, it's very. Sometimes I feel like things are made for producers, and it's not a producer making it, so you kind of miss some things.
Yeah.
Decap killed that, son. It was perfect.
So hardware.
Yeah, hardware. Man, I don't even know where I start. All right, so like everything I do at some point hits my Neve 8816 summing mixer. that is probably the core of my setup, right?
Okay.
You know, it is essentially a Neve console in a rack, 16 ends. It's got a Neve with knob, which is an analog approach to like with excitement. It just gives it a take that I have yet to see. I have yet to see or do in software.
Okay.
It also helps things. Like I tell people, the way I explain it is like I could have like, you know, 8 stems in Pro Tools. I'm just hitting play. It's coming out stereo, fine. But as soon as I say, okay, stem 1 is just going to hit 1 and 2 on the Neve. Stem 2 is just going to hit 3 and 4. Stem 3, 5 and 6, etc. And you run that through the Neve, you don't change any levels, right? Every stem is just hitting its own stereo, you know, track in the Neve. All of a sudden, I need your drink again, bro, my bad. All of a sudden, things that were like this in your mix are now like this, right? And so,
And very few people are going to understand and hear the difference. Yeah.
yeah, but I find that people may not hear it, but they feel it.
Yeah.
Things feel more effortless, more natural,
Yeah.
right? It's easier to get something, like you want a horn to hit and you don't want it to clash with the vocal.
Yeah.
In an analog environment, like again, you're just gonna do this. Now, when this happens, now you have options.
Yeah.
Now I can EQ it and do it even further than that, or I can EQ it and make everything bigger and force things together like that. But now this is just taking up more space.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit more like this.
Yeah.
You know, make sure I remember this time. Yeah. So everything kind of goes to the Neve, man. At some point, I also think a very key component, hardware-wise, is the entry to software, which is my Prism Titan interface.
Okay.
So the Titan is one of those interfaces that like you'll never see advertised. You'll never see, you'll never run into some social media post that because you like interfaces, we're gonna introduce you to the Prism Titan.
Yeah.
Nah, it's one of those like if you know interfaces, and I was first introduced to it at Sterling Sound Mastering in Manhattan, bro. When I walked into that joint, I was looking at their speakers. I was like, yo, these are some nice speakers. They were like, yeah, one of them is $30,000. I was like, one of them? What?
Oh my God.
Yeah, I was just like, and then at that point, I just tried to not touch it. I'm like, oh, I don't know what's going on, you know. But one of the mastering engineers, he was telling me how that Prism, the company Prism, is, you know, I think it's either the most used or one of the most used interfaces for mastering because of how clear and natural its AD is, right? So it's analog to digital, and then just as important, it's digital to analog,
Yeah.
right? Because you got to be able to set up peripheral rack EQs and compressors, and when coming out of the software and back in, you don't want any loss.
Yeah.
Right. And so a lot of interfaces, like they might record, you know, as flat as possible, but their D to A is a smiley face, right? It's meant to make your ears enjoy bass and treble, you know what I'm saying? But the Prism line is just filled with interfaces that are incredibly flat and incredibly open, rich, and vivid. So it's the best interface if you're going to be using your interface to create hardware inserts, things that need to go out and come back in.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Versus just recording, mixing, and now you have a stereo waveform, you bounce it to MP3, now you put it somewhere.
Yeah.
Nah, I need stuff to be able to go in my interface, leave it, go into other things, and come back and not lose any fidelity. Prism Titan, hands down.
Okay.
The GOAT. You know what I'm saying? Like, bro, I have 3 other engineers in my team. They all use all of them. The other 3 they use Apollo. So they have like a quad. I think we have an arrow in the shuttle. I love Apollo devices. I think they're great, especially because you get to use them with unison preamps and all of that stuff. They're kind of built in, you know. I mean, Apollo cares.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? UAD cares.
Yeah.
But like when I hook up the 87 through any preamp to theirs, and then I do it to the Titan, it may not be night and day.
Yeah.
Maybe it's dusk and dawn. I don't know, but it's different. It's very clearly noticeable how open the sound is.
Okay.
So, you know, but it's also the Prism Titan. When you walk into my setup, it's the easiest thing to overlook. It just looks like this white thing that's just sitting there. But if I had to really say, okay, what hardware pieces am I using to get the I Make Mad Beats sound? It's those 2 pieces. It's the Neve 8816 in combination with the Prism Titan, and going out of the Prism Titan 8 outs into, you know, the channels on the Neve.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I mean, you're talking about things that, one, I haven't used before, haven't seen in person, and I'm interested in basically anytime somebody has information or stuff that I don't know about, because I think it's important that people understand there's more than one way to skin a cat. And
Absolutely.
if you like when your first reaction talking about waves, like I've seen, you know, people like Andrew Sheps, who is a huge wave proponent, but at the same time, you've got some people who are at the top that are like, you know, waves is trash. Well, there's just so many different opinions on waves. Just one, because like usually people downplay things that are cheap, and waves is cheap.
Yep.
And then some people will like build up things that are expensive just because they're expensive. But just because it's expensive doesn't mean it's good.
That's facts.
And just because it's cheap doesn't mean it's bad.
That's facts.
And I think that it's important that people understand that people who are good at what they're doing are using everything.
Absolutely.
Because those are the type of people that understand the price of something isn't the value of something.
Yeah. I mean, I think, the same thing would extend to like the first plugin in my vocal chain is a stock plugin.
Yeah.
Pro Tools. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not out here just, let me pull up the UAD. Like, nah, it's straight out of Pro Tools, you know what I'm saying?
I'm in the Fab cult.
Oh, yeah. Okay, hell yeah.
I love Fab Filters.
Oh, hell yeah. Nah, the Pro Q3 is epic.
Yeah, that's what I use.
Yeah. But no, I mean, yeah, to further, you know, make your point, like, so just, and this is for all y'all out there, man. My dislike of waves is the company waves. I don't like how they do business. You know what I'm saying?
And a lot of people would agree.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like I don't have a problem with that. But no, there are some choice pieces, specific plugins. I also think a big part of engineering is knowing how to remain objective, right? Which is not getting too emotionally attached to like any opinion.
Yeah.
And just be like, nah, actually, I don't really rock with this, but this specific plugin works great. Another thing that I try to say, you know, that I try to make sure people understand, and this is why I phrased it the way I phrased it. Like, for me, the Neve and the Prism Titan is how I achieve the I Make Mad Beats sound.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Like, I'm a big fan of, like, again, it's not binary. It's not just a good mix and a bad mix. Like, I want my stuff to sound like me. I want it to have an identity unique to me.
Yeah.
You know, and so, you know, like I tell people all the time, like, you know, like you said, like I've actually talked to Andrew Sheps, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, and like there is a beauty in how engineers have learned and developed to be able to give you what you want while still maintaining the brand of their sound.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, to me, that's an upper echelon engineer,
Yeah.
right? Because, you know, there's intermediate, right, where it's like, nah, like you're, you know, you either only know your sound or you are a chameleon of sorts and you can deliver the client whatever they want. You know what I'm saying? And that's great. Both of those are great. You know what I'm saying? But the next level is both.
Yeah.
The next level is like, I shout him out till the end, man. You know, it's watching Michael Brower mix something and like, bro, like, I don't know, man. Like I've never seen a dragon or a wizard in real life, but I have seen Michael Brower mix something. You know what I'm saying? And that was a top 5 moment in terms of like, what the in my life.
Yeah.
I remember when he pulled up the session and just hit play. And then I remember what I heard 5 hours later and I just couldn't believe it. You know, and he's using all of these tools and more. Like he's, you know what I'm saying? Like he's got machines I didn't even know existed, you know, and he will find a reason to use this $10,000 compressor, but then also use like C1 from Waves, like, you know, and you know, so yeah, it's like, what are you going for? And do you know your tools well enough to get what you're going for?
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, let's go ahead and wrap this up. Always end with just letting you tell people about stuff that you're working on, that they can be waiting to expect. Obviously, the PGA stuff, you said you're working on that. I guess just give everybody stuff that they can look forward to and how they can find you or work with you, talk to Frankie, all that kind of stuff.
For sure. Yeah. Well, first thing I'm gonna do is do my job. I have to shout out the Unapologetic World app, man. There is no deeper experience of what it is that we're doing at Unapologetic than downloading the Unapologetic World app. It is available for iOS and Android devices. I designed it myself. Little known information. I have a degree in computer science. So I've been programming since I was about 14 or 15 years old. Go ahead and get that app. It is designed by some stranger named James Dukes. And it is for free. So go ahead and get that. But on all social media platforms, just put in I Make Mad Beats and you will find me. That is spelled phonetically. There's no Z at the end. It's all one word. And if you have respect for me, you'll capitalize the whole thing. Yeah, you can find me, I Make Mad Beats, everywhere. Our studio is called Outer Space. If you want to book time there, you can go to outerspacemaine.com, MANE.com. So Outer Space Maine. And there's a whole web page devoted to making your booking experience pretty simple, straightforward. Yeah, and in terms of things that we're working on, man, we got a couple of things happening at the end of this year. First and foremost, we got a project called Stuntarius. Stuntarius 5 is about to drop. We have not dropped a Stuntarius since before the pandemic. We used to drop them every year. So we dropped 4 between 2016 and between 2015 and 2019. We dropped 4 different volumes of Stuntarius. When the pandemic hit and then I got sick, things kind of changed. So we're getting back on Stuntarius Volume 5. That'll be epic. I'm gonna shout out who's featured on it. I'm gonna fall back just because some people will be mad at me. You know what I'm saying? But it's featuring some interesting people that I'm pretty sure you're a fan of. So yeah, look out for that. We'll be announcing that relatively soon. And lastly, we are unapologetic.com is where you can find all things that I've mentioned just now.
Awesome. Well, it's been great having you on, talking about how you got started in New York and coming back here and your adventures in life and just understanding who you are and the people around you and understand what you know about engineering and how you scope out, you know, the people in your life and how Unapologetic came to be and all the people who are in it and the roles they got to play. So thank you for explaining all that.
Thank you for having me, bro. This is an honor, man. You got a great space here. If y'all don't, I mean, this is his podcast, but I'm gonna do a quick shout out. Hey, yo, man, you know what I'm saying? Mess with my guy here, you know what I'm saying? DMG, you know what I'm saying? He's doing great stuff, man. He's got a great location. I just walked through it. It's dope as hell. You know what I'm saying? This has been fun, man. So thank you.
Awesome.
Sure.
All right. Well, thank you for everybody for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Peace.